Sinners was written and directed by Ryan Coogler and stars Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld, Miles Canton, and a whole cast of very talented actors, which we'll come on to shortly. I think I'm just going to crash straight into it because I want to keep this video quite brief because I'm recording quite late. But this film really, really passed me by. I think I saw trailers for this back in February, March, when there were good films in the cinema from the horror genre. It's not been the case for a couple of months. And it really just didn't strike me as something I'd be that interested in, if I'm being very honest. So I kind of put it to the back of my head. And it was only about a week or so ago that there was a real buzz that actually this was maybe one of the best films of the year, certainly one of the best horror films, but actually contender for one of the best movies we've seen in 2025 so far. And I have to say, in interest of just getting to the point, this film really did blow me away. There's something very special about this film. And actually, from a horror perspective, it's not even really the horror aspect that's special. So let's just kind of get into it. So I think in terms of all the traditional metrics on kind of how you measure a film, this film really, really hits the mark. So it looks fantastic. I didn't see it on an IMAX screen, but it was filmed on IMAX cameras. The way it's lit, the way it looks, it has a real kind of grimy coziness about it, if that makes sense. Everything really glows. Everything just looks really sumptuous and really kind of beautiful on screen. As I said at the beginning, the acting is very good. There's a lot of payoff in terms of there's real time spent getting to know the characters, and the actors just put in such a good performance that kind of build up really, really helps you at the end when you kind of want to have a better understanding of what happens to the characters in the movie. And then the thing that I think most people are going to talk about when it comes to this film is the soundtrack. So I didn't, again, necessarily expect to go into what looks like a vampire movie and just expect to be so blown away by not just the kind of the soundtrack throughout, but it's the whole picture. Like, the kind of the sonic nature of this movie is just so exciting and so frenetic. And it's almost been described as a musical, which, don't let that put you off. It's not a kind of musical where people sing the plot, but it's kind of generated by this rhythm. And, music is at the heart of what makes the film so special. And it all comes down to the fact that Ryan Coogler's uncle passed away, was really into blues music. And it sort of, I understand, got him thinking about making a film that really celebrated blues and the kind of part that's played in Black history. So, again, I don't want to give away too many spoilers. I just think that this is a really special film. I think it's already an Oscar contender, which for the horror community is very unusual. I knew coming out of it that I'd want to sit with it for a bit. And now that I've done that, I'm glad I did. It was I think I came out of that yesterday afternoon thinking, I don't want to go and do a review immediately because it needed to kind of embed itself, if that makes sense, into my soul a little bit more, which sounds very elevated. But it did. It just needed time to settle for me to really understand what I've just seen. And yeah, it's just stunning. I mean, there are a couple of musical sequences in this which I just think are just pure art. There is one particular bit, and this film is very much a film of two halves. There's actually quite a long build-up for the kind of the horror element, which kind of lands in Act 2. But to bridge the gap between Act 1 and 2, there's this musical sequence which has a part to play in the plot, but it kind of serves as the transition from that beginning part of the film to the second part. And the way it's put together, I just sat there with my jaw open, like, I can't believe I'm watching this. That it was just so much deeper than a scene in a movie. It was all about Black history and music and the kind of the power that music can have. And I'm not that deep in terms of music, like movie analysis and things affecting me. But the more I think about that sequence, I was just blown away by it. So I would heartily recommend it. And those are kind of the plus points, which really, really generalizes what is a very, very, as I say, very special film. My only negatives, which again, it's down to personal style, and they're not going to be negatives for everyone. They're not necessarily negatives for me. I could just see that there are things that people might find frustrating. So if you go into this film expecting a traditional vampire film, you're probably going to be disappointed because actually the build-up, it takes probably about an hour and a half to really get to the kind of the horror. And actually it's quite quick then that that part of the film happens. It's not it is a vampire movie, but it's so much more than that. And that build-up for me was needed because, as I said earlier, it kind of gave you a good payoff about why do I care about these characters now? And you really did get to become quite fond of people, so you cared about them, when things happen later in the film. Um, so I've seen comments about the pacing. Yeah, this film is long. It's about 2 hours 20 minutes. That won't be for everyone. I think it's a shame if it's not. I would quite like to watch it again now, kind of knowing that that's where it's going to go, because I really enjoyed that first hour and a half. I smiled to myself. The characters were likable, and there was almost a seeing it the first time, kind of like, oh come on, get on with the action. Actually watching it again, it's coming, so you can enjoy sitting with it a bit longer. Um, my only other criticism, and I know that other people have said this, is I really could have done with subtitles. I mean, I watch subtitles a lot. There were a few moments in the film where dialogue to me was just a bit lost, and I couldn't quite work out the nuance of the plot. And actually, first thing I did was go and get in my car afterwards and check Wikipedia to make sure that I'd understood everything, and I broadly had. So you're not going to miss out on big chunks of story, but there were little nuances about characters that I didn't quite get, maybe who they were or what the implication was, and it became clearer towards the end. So again, really no negatives. It's, as I said, this is just a film you have to go and see. I think this is something that will stick around in history in terms of cinema, and I don't say that lightly, because it's not a vampire film. I think there is potentially another negative, that if you want a straight out vampire film, the trailer does sell it as that, and it isn't. I think it's just so much more. It's just got soul and heart. That all comes from Ryan Coogler as the director, because that is his childhood. That's what he's grown up with, and he wanted to put that into the context of a vampire movie, which in itself is an allegory for sort of really being free and being an outcast of society. And there's a lot of deeper messaging about it, but you don't have to engage with it if you don't want to. It's not clobbering you over the head with it. It's there as a sort of a really useful subtext. But if you want to just enjoy it for what it is, which is a really good, solid vampire movie, coupled with this just really awesome, lead up and story, then I'd absolutely go and recommend it. So for me, I don't give scores like this lightly. Initially, it was going to be an 8, and as I said, the more I sit on this film, the more I think about it, the more I kind of almost reminisce and visualize what it was in my head. It's stuck with me, and that doesn't always happen. I will walk out of the cinema like, I loved Heart Eyes, and I saw that a couple of months ago, loved it, but I've not thought about it since. This really got into my psyche today, and really am thinking about a lot of the things that sort of maybe flew over my head a little bit. So this for me is a 9 out of 10, which I think is on par with Companion. I'm not sure whether that's the highest so far this year. Very different kind of film. It's, in some ways it's a popcorn movie, some ways it's not. But yeah, I really, really liked it. Check out Sinners. I think that will definitely be way up there at the end of the year. And I'll catch you on the next review.